Then I take them out of that imaginary world that I put them in, and I pitch them very directly in the email. And I talk about what it is that I want them to buy or what I want them to do.
Hey, podcast listener, you're about to discover insider tips, tricks, and secrets to making more sales and converting more prospects into customers with email marketing. For more information about the Email Marketing Podcast or the Autoresponder Guy, go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Hey, it's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy, and it's time for episode 80. That's a lot of podcasts of the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast, where you'll discover how to make more money with your list, how to crank up the value of your leads way up and make bank with them. Today, I'll be talking to Daniel Levis. Now, Daniel is a very interesting guy. He is very successful at copywriting, and especially email copywriting. He's known for using incredible sales stories to make sales, to boost conversions, to just blow the records out of the water. So I thought I'd get him on the show, chat to him about email, find out exactly how he uses these stories to create these incredible sales. This is a bit different to Andre Chaperone. It's different to the Ben Settle stuff. It's different to what I do. He's got his own spin on things, and I think he's amazing at it. So yeah, how to use email alchemy. Okay. Stories influence. He's got another program called Effortless Influence. So this guy's been in the game for a while. He has tons of insights to share. So get ready for that. To get the show notes for this episode of the Email Marketing Podcast, go to themcmethod.com/80 for 80. We're going to have to do a celebration. We get to 100 episodes there. Anyway, one more thing before we get into the interview. I've got a McMaster's Inside of the Week. McMaster's is a private community that I have. Someone mentioned Adrius, mentioned GKIC, which is Dan Kennedy's sort of recurring or continuity program, as far as I know. I'm not too familiar with it, but he mentioned that in the community, in the forum, inside the McMaster's forum, that they're a great model to look at when you're brainstorming how to do your recurring billing, how to do your continuity programs. Maybe you're doing a forum, newsletters, however you're trying to do it. Go and study something like GKIC. So Dan Kennedy's program. You could study McMaster's, you could study this. But anyway, that's that. So if you're thinking about doing the recurring thing, the insight today is that go and look at GKIC, check out how they do it with the newsletters, and you'll get a good idea of what you can do. Some other ideas you can check out Ben Settle's Email Players. He does a physical print newsletter which you can sign up to. I think last time I checked it was $97 a month, and you get a newsletter once a month. My way of doing it is I have McMaster's, which is you sign up and you pay. There's a few different options, but let's say it's monthly, and you pay every month and you can cancel anytime. So that's the way I do it with the forum and some training products in there. So there are a few different models, a few different ideas, and that's how you really build some of that recurring revenue into your business. McMaster's is a private community. If you want to learn more about it, just go to themcmethod.com, and in the top menu bar, you should see a link saying members. Click that, and you get all the information there, including how to sign up. That's that. Let's get into this interview with Mr. Daniel Levis. It's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy. I'm here with Daniel Levis. Now, I actually met Daniel, last week or something at the Titans of Direct Response. Now, Daniel is a direct response consultant. He's a copywriter, and he's got some interesting products out there. One of them is called Effortless Influence, and another one, which we're going to talk about today, is Email Alchemy, which I don't know too much about it yet, so that's why I got Daniel on here to talk about it. And because he's got sort of an interesting take on, should you use teaser copy, or do you want to use longer emails? Do open rates matter? All sorts of different stuff. So I'm really excited. You should be excited too. So before we get into that, though, Daniel, how are you going today?
I'm awesome. How are you doing, John?
Doing good, man. I'm a little bit tired, a little bit jet lagged. So my mind's, as I told you, I got back from Thailand. I got back from the US to Thailand 24 hours ago. So right now it's 8 p.m. here, but it's actually 9 a.m. in New York. So my head's a little bit messy right now. But anyway, it was a nice little conference. But before we get into the content and Email Alchemy, can you give the listener a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'll give you the Cole's Notes version. Basically, I've been a professional copywriter since 2004, and before that, I was a salesman, basically. And I got into copywriting out of necessity. Used to use the telephone to generate appointments to sell my stuff. And that's kind of stopped working and became much less effective in the 90s when voicemail came on the scene. I must sound like a total dinosaur talking about the 90s. Holy smokes. So I started writing lead generation letters, letters to get people interested, pick up the phone, request some type of a white paper, which I would also write, and I also consider that to be copy. I started writing monthly newsletters for my clients and just became much more involved with the written word versus the spoken word. But I don't really see a lot of difference. I mean, certainly there are differences in, face-to-face selling. You're right there with the client. You're getting immediate feedback. You got to think a lot faster. But apart from that, sales copy is salesmanship in print. So that was my introduction to the written word, selling with the written word. And then I went full-time as a copywriter on my own in 2004. And since then, I've written all kinds of pretty high-level stuff, a lot of magalog type stuff that goes out in the mail for financial newsletters. I worked closely with Clayton Makepeace for several years. Worked with, I'm going to say, like 6, 7, 8 different financial publishers, people like Weiss Research and Stealth Stocks Online and Hidden Values Alert and the Street Authority, pretty well-known names in finance. But I really got interested in email marketing because in part of the process of getting clients and my philosophy for getting clients as a copywriter is that you should have your own publication. And that's by far the best way to make a name for yourself. It's by far the best way to get clients because when you position yourself as a guru, even from day one, and this is what I did, you just get a lot higher paying clients. You get people that are more serious, and you don't have to put yourself at a sort of psychological disadvantage when you're out there trying to get clients, because clients find you. They read your blog, they read your newsletter, they see other people promoting you, or even they see people maybe you're promoting somebody else. Well, part of their mojo rubs off on you. So that was kind of my start. And then this whole email alchemy thing came up because in the process of building my list and making money building that list, you have to have a way to monetize your efforts if you're building a list. So I did a lot of experimenting and a lot of email. I mean, I must have sent a gazillion emails out to my list over the last 10 years. So I get a kind of feel of what's working, what isn't working. I would develop these products that would help me to monetize the building of the list. And I just noticed that what I was doing with those emails, my experience was kind of like counterintuitive and opposite of what most people do. And I found that I could send a short email. You mentioned, teaser emails versus longer copy emails. I could send a short sort of teaser email about something. And, back in the good old days, it doesn't really matter what you sent out. You sent an email out and you made money. That was just, email was a new thing. The web was new, and it was just a lot easier back then. But what I discovered is that rather than sending out these short teaser emails and getting a lot of traffic to a web page, that kind of stopped working to a large extent. And what I started doing was I would take the lion's share of the persuasion and stick it in the email. So I developed this process of where a 5-step sort of process that I wanted to put people through, or that I wanted to execute with every email. And that is like I would have a subject line that typically was not, a subject line has to have benefit. It has to have curiosity if you want to be, really successful, I believe, at selling. You can put a subject line like, hey, ... or just put the person's name in the subject line, and you get a lot of people opening your emails. But the problem with that, unless you're, Barack Obama or Frank Kern, you're going to have a lot of casual curiosity, right? People are opening your emails to see why you put their name in the subject line, or why did you put hey ... in the subject line. But that doesn't get you anywhere. All it does is it gets your email opened, right? And again, if you put it like a short teaser message in the email, trying to get them to go to your blog or to your video or your sales page or your launch series or whatever it is, you're going to get a lot of people clicking through there too. But what I discovered is that again, it's casual curiosity, and people are curious about, well, what's going on there. But if you really want to sell something, you need to have benefit and you need to have curiosity in the subject line. That's a good subject line.
So the interesting part here that I notice is that, like when you can use like a "hey" in the subject line or a name. I got a blog post on my site about Obama's subject lines, and it will work, or like a bad news subject line. Like that stuff works on a once, or can work on like a once off. But once you've done it, you can't do it again. It's not a long term strategy. It's sort of that pattern interrupt that like one time, but you can't use it again. So it's like you've got to have something more than just tricks like that.
Yeah, and I would take that analogy and extend it to the email itself. I mean, you can send a very blind sort of an email that's full of curiosity that gets a lot of clicks. It gets a lot of clicks to your landing page or whatever it is you're promoting. But then again, how many times can you do that? Not very many, maybe 2 or 3 times. And the second or third time that you try it, your click-through rate is going to go way down, and it's going to go down to the same sort of low click-through rates that my emails get. My emails are, 700, 800, 1,000 words, and they take the prospect through this whole process, what I call the opening. And the opening is really like a breadcrumb, a series of breadcrumbs or single line cliffhangers, if you will, that are designed to draw the subject into the email. And then I have what's called the deepening, which is typically a story or some type of a visual, almost like a story, but that told in the second person, right? So I mean, can you imagine yourself doing this, and then this happened and that happened? But the idea is to get the prospect's imagination activated and engaged, so that they're no longer sitting there in front of their computer. They're actually off somewhere in their mind, in some other place, in some other time. And that's very key, critical thing that has to happen in the email. You have to get them out of the here and now, and you have to get them in this sort of imaginary world that you put them in, almost like a trance. And while you're doing that, you're planting suggestions that are congruent with what you want them to do when they click through. So you have this deepening process, and then I take them out of that reverie, out of that imaginary world that I put them in, and I pitch them very directly in the email. And I talk about what it is that I want them to buy or what I want them to do on the landing page, and I do it very directly. And then I tell them, to go and do it. Go and buy it. Go and order it. Go and get involved. Go and sign up for this webinar and make sure you're there, because if you're not there, your hair is going to fall out or whatever.
So one example, just to sum this up, it sounds like you would have, instead of curiosity, like just a curiosity, subject line, you would have worked the benefits in there. So there's sort of like a relevant attention that's opening that email, that they're opening it because they want to learn more about email, or they want to learn more about how to pick up women, or whatever the topic is. Then you catch their attention, you tell a story, you use the story to deepen them and take them into a sort of trance, and then you pitch very directly, and then you push them to the page. That's the process, right?
Yeah, and I would add that the subject line is not really about the what I want them to do. The subject line is more about selling the readership of the email. So the subject line, it's going to have the word in it. What was the word that you mentioned? Email. Okay, so it'll have the word email in it.
Right.
But the subject line is not about email alchemy, or it's not about email, course XYZ. The subject line is typically about the story of, what's going on.
So what I find is because this is like I found like those random curiosity, subject lines, they get great open rates, but they don't convert as well. Whereas I find if I have an email marketing product, because I'm trying to sell that, then what seems to work really well is I have a subject line that mentions email, mentions autoresponder, mentions email something, but then it doesn't go into the product. Yeah, it does what you're talking about, where it uses that to then transition into a story that somehow relates to email.
That's right. Yeah. And the story, I mean, the crazier the story, or the more paradoxical the story, the better, because that's really what.
Where do you come up with your stories?
Well, that's a very, very interesting question. I mean, there's a bunch of places that I come up with stories, but by far the best place to get the story is from the client themselves. So for example, if you look at the case studies in my Email Alchemy courses. They're all case study driven. You see the craziest stories that, I mean, you couldn't make shit like that up because they're just too crazy. To give you an example, one of the case studies when you buy my course is in the track 1 part of the training is from Kenrick Cleveland, and he does like persuasion. Are you familiar with Kenrick Cleveland at all?
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Okay, well, he's a guy you should really check out because not only is he a character, but he has this wonderful courses about persuasion and NLP and that sort of thing. And when I interviewed Kenrick, it was just amazing the kinds of stories that he would come up with. And he wasn't volunteering the stories. I had to kind of be very you remember Jay Abraham when he was up on the stage there and he was talking about conversations that he'd have with people, and he said, well, you don't want to be in a hurry, but you want to be very persistent, but at the same time relaxed. And that's the kind of thing that I teach in the second track is like how do you extract a hook, right? So while I'm interviewing this guy, Kenrick Cleveland, I discovered that he's just really a character. He's got some really interesting language that he uses when he's telling his stories. So one of the subject lines in his series is something about, penniless raging bull of persuasion. Penniless raging bull of persuasion. Yeah. And that's a story that he's telling me about how all these just insane stories about how he's selling life insurance, and then the life insurance company, he gets a call one day and he's out on the street because they've gone under or whatever, and then he's walking around in this town somewhere in the western part of the States, and he sees a fitness gym, and he walks into the gym and he says, I need a sales job, and the lady comes out and she's just drop dead gorgeous, and he's drooling while he's talking to her, and then she gives him a job, and this whole story about how he's cutting his teeth at selling gym memberships, and he screws up the sale and he lets the guy go and he doesn't buy, and this gorgeous knockout woman just pulls him up on the rug and just totally belittles him and says, don't ever let that guy go again without turning him over to me so I can close him. And he tells all these crazy stories, and that's where the stories come from. So penniless raging bull of persuasion. He's a cocky son of a bitch, and he gets torn down. And then there's another subject line, another story, brunette bombshell of persuasion versus my mom. Right? Yeah. So brunette bombshell of persuasion versus my mom, well, that's a conflict, right? And conflict is what drives a story, right? Mm. So we tell a story about how his mom, had taught him how to sell MLM, and then he met this knockout woman, and then he tells a story about how Richard Bandler put him in a trance when he was in a seminar, and that's another email, and that one's like darker than NLP dark side patterns, So all these stories that are real, true to life stories that came out of the client. That is by far, or if you're writing your own emails, have somebody help you to pull those hooks up. Or another case study that I used to teach is a fitness trainer coach, and her story was, why Amazons scare guys spitless was one of the headlines. Yeah. Right. So we're talking about this, why do women want to look like that? Or why do men want to look like that? Well, they want to get laid, or they want to impress the opposite sex. Another one was my jiggly embarrassing bums. See it on video. That's the subject line. And this is about when she would compete to get on the stage, and before they get on the stage, they have to get this brown war paint painted on, and they have to have their G-string glued on. So one of the subject lines is body sculpting number 5, my glued on G-string. So you think people are going to open that? Yeah, they're going to open that. But it's got nothing to do with the product. It's not this, it's not evident what's for sale here or what the desired action is. We just want to get them to open that thing. We want to deepen them with a story. We want to put them there in a competition, getting their G-string glued on and the brown war paint painted on by some old fart in the gym there. And that's the kind of thing we're doing. We're just kind of creating all of these stories. Or another one was discount and expiring. This is later on in the campaign. Discount expiring in little square brackets, and then it's embarrassing husband story. What woman is not going to open that? An embarrassing husband story.
Right.
And she tells us story about how the UPS man or whatever they have down in Australia there came with a bunch of maple syrup to the door, and her husband opens the door, and the name of her business is idealbodiesonline.com, and the FedEx guy or whoever he is, DHL I think it was, I don't know, and he looks at her husband, and he's got a bit of a pot belly, and he looks at the bill of lading, and it says Ideal Bodies Online. He looks back at her husband, looks back at the bill of lading, he says, idealbodiesonline.com, yeah, right, so all of these stories are real, true-to-life stories that I pull out of the client or out of myself if I'm the one telling the story or trying to sell something directly.
Right. So it sounds like, the story, like you can tell a story about like something completely random. Like one of my guests back in the past has said he goes to to a news site and finds the weird section where you find some just crazy stuff, and that gets a lot of open rates. But what we're talking about here is if you're going to tell a story, it's got to be weird, and it's got to have the conflict, and there's got to be some some of that contrast with that stuff. Like how the hell does that work? Where they have to read it, but it also has to tie in somehow to not so much the product, but the topic, whether it's email or having better relationships or losing weight.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with doing what you said there. Like there's an old story that Gary Halbert would tell, and he's working with his students, and what Gary would say to the student that wants to learn how to write copy is, I want you to wake up every morning and go and buy the New York Times or buy the Wall Street Journal or buy whatever, publication and just open it up at random and find a headline. And then I want you to write a story that ties that headline to whatever it is you're doing. And that's what I want you to do every morning when you wake up. And that's exactly what you described this whoever this guest was. You said, go to and there are sites online where you can go and you can find unusual stories.
Yep.
There's a site that I love. It's called the hell's it called? Urban Dictionary, I think it's called.
Yep.
And you go to the Urban Dictionary, and every day people are going on this site. It's and they will define something. So they're defining a particular term, and it's always funny and gross and unusual, and they use all kinds of strange words. So I'll go there and I'll find one of these little Urban Dictionary definitions, and I'll turn it into a story, or I'll find some kind of crazy video on YouTube or whatever it is. No matter what it is, I'll find a way. If it's attention absorbing, if it's got this sort of, and I have a whole list of what I call hooks. Things like controversy and embarrassment and conflict and intrigue, all these sort of checklist of the types of stories that grab attention. And I'll find a story that has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm selling, and I'll turn it into a story. So that's another way of using stories, another way of pulling people into your emails. But there's all kinds of different ways, and I really love the idea of finding a story inside of the person's life or inside of your own life. But there's all kinds of different ways to do it.
Right. One thing I'm interested in is like, let's say you said, because you mentioned, I think, that some of these sequences might go for 2 weeks or 20 days or something like that. So what are we talking? Someone joins a list and then they get the 2 to 3 week email sequence, or are you writing, say, 7 emails or something and sending them every 3 days, and you just send that out to a list you already have?
Well, both. Certainly both. The case study campaigns that I do, because I'm going to I like to cherry pick. As a copywriter or a marketing consultant, or I like to go and find a client who already has a list. I don't want to deal with clients that are trying to build a list.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean email alchemy doesn't apply in that particular scenario. It's just that I can make a lot more money as a copywriter if I deal with people who already have a list. So if you buy my courses and you look at John Benson's campaign for his recent 3 Accelerator, or this gal in Australia, or Kenrick Cleveland, that's the scenario. But that doesn't mean you can't use the exact same scenario when you're building a list, and you most certainly should. It's just a different sort of an animal. So in terms of lead generation, I have people who buy these courses and they use them to generate leads. So they'll typically have some type of a lead generation page there where they're giving away something. And then as soon as somebody opts in for this, then they will get these story-based sort of emails that are typically designed. And a lot of this is service-based stuff. So people will be selling some type of a service. Maybe they're a social media consultant. Maybe they're a landscaper, or maybe they do some type of renovation on a home, or maybe they're some type of a consultant or coach, or whatever it is. And so they in exchange for a special report, in exchange for some type of consultation or whatever, they have the right to follow up with this prospect, and then maybe every 2 or 3 days they'll send one of these email alchemy emails. And the intent of the email, if somebody has requested a special report from you, a white paper or whatever it is, and this goes back to my days in sales and selling, direct selling, is that I would then follow up on that lead generation magnet, that special report or white paper, or whatever it was, with a bunch of these emails that are designed to take the prospect to the next step. So not only have they read your indoctrination, your strategy, the principles that you use to get a specific job done, now it's time for them to get a half-hour consult, or an hour consult, or a 90-minute consult, or whatever it is, so that they can get specific, custom-tailored advice.
Yep.
And the duration of that appointment, if you will, would coincide with the amount of money that you would be asking for at the end of that consult.
Okay. So you're saying that this works because a lot of people come to me, and they ask me, I sell services and I sell products, and people come to me and they start to ask, well, can I sell, a lot of the questions that I spoke to someone about this morning is like, well, B2B, because that's often what you're doing when you're selling services. So you're saying this, when you do it right, you can, and I know this, but sometimes, the listener might not, is that you can use this story-based selling method for business to business and for selling services. It's not just for people with an ebook to sell.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have people who buy this and then they're selling like $15,000, kitchen renovations, or multi-$1,000 consulting engagements. We have people doing this who are selling management consulting, believe it or not. And it's a great way to sell management consulting because you don't want to be talking to people who have not already drunk your management consulting Kool-Aid, right?
Yep.
And how do you get them to buy drink your Kool-Aid? Well, you got to get them to buy or request a free report. Then you want them to consume it before you get on the phone with them or whatever. If they don't do that, there's no point getting them on the phone, because then you're going to have to sell them on the phone, and which is about the least effective way to sell somebody something. If you have to sell somebody something one-to-one on the telephone, I mean, that is just stupid. You are shooting yourself in the foot. They should be sold on you before you ever get on the telephone. And the way to do that is to write a book or write a special report and to send them emails that captivate, that get them really thinking, that open their mind, that deepen them into this imagination, get their imagination flowing, and to see them moving forward in whatever it is they want to do with you, kind of like the orchestrator of it all, well before you ever get them on the telephone, so that when they're on the phone, you're asking them questions about what it is they want to do, and you're asking those questions in a spirit of discovery, so that you're sort of asking them questions that are selling them on you rather than you trying to sell yourself on to them. They're already sold on you. You're asking questions that are saying, okay, do I really want to work with you, Mr. Client? Are we a good fit?
Yep.
Are you the kind of person that I want to work with in terms of making this result happen for you? So that's the spirit of the interview, and that's what email alchemy, and that's what this whole process of pulling a client towards you, but can certainly be business to business, absolutely.
And the one last thing before we wrap this up that I wanted to know is just like on a rough. I mean, what's your sort of rough overview for how to structure a campaign? If I wanted to go email my list today, for example, and use the methods that we've talked about here, do I write, say, 7 emails and send one every 3 days and have a story that's sort of spread out over those emails, or do I have a different story every day, or does it follow some sort of arc, or I don't know, what's your thinking there?
Well, yeah, it depends on your objective. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to sell? How much does it cost? What kind of behavioral change are you asking your prospect to make? Give me a little context.
Let's say I'm selling a product for $300, and the customer or the prospect, they're interested in the topic. They haven't bought anything yet, though, or maybe they've bought something small for say like $20, and they're interested in taking the next step, but they haven't yet. Is that enough context?
No. Okay. And what is it? What is this $300 thing that you're selling?
Say it's just for, let's say it's simple, like a weight loss thing that's going to teach them. It's like an advanced weight loss system.
Okay, cool. That's exactly the same product that I was talking about that the lady in Australia was selling. It was a $300. It was like a membership site where they would go in and they had this. I think it was like a 12-week program for weight loss and figure sculpting, more weight loss than figure sculpting. So the same sort of thing. So how did we sell it? Well, we used a simple landing page, had a video on it, and the video was like, I think it had like 12, maybe 8 to 10 sort of little stories that were like 30, 45-second stories with a before and an after picture. And here's the fat lady and here's the hot lady. So that was the landing page. And underneath the landing page, it was kind of like positive acceptance copy that said, you're damn right, Sue. I'm in on this, and here's everything that you're going to be giving me. So kind of written in the reverse voice. So it's the prospect talking on the landing page. And then in terms of the emails, we would send an email every single day. I think we sent emails for like 14 days. So every day they got an email, and it was always something kind of crazy story about this lady and her exploits as a figure sculptor, and how she was fat before and now she's thin, and all these emotional issues about that she had when she was a teenager, and real stories about all of these things that these women are going through. And every day for, say, actually, I probably have the series here right in front of me. I can tell you exactly how many days the campaign went for. So like 10 days, we'd send an email every single day. And then on the 11th day, we'd send 2 emails. And the 12th day, 2 emails. And then the last day, we'd send 4 emails in one day. So the idea is you have this window of opportunity, this limited opportunity to get some special deal, so they could get this course for $300. But if they missed it and they didn't get in that during this window, then they would have to pay $400, or they wouldn't get such and such a bonus along with the main program for $300. So there's something bad that happens at the end of the 15 days or however many days it was.
Something like it closes or the price goes up or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. And then each one of these emails would have a kind of like an ongoing sort of narrative that becomes increasingly clear. The way to look at it as a narrative, okay, typically there's some type of a problem or thing that happens to this individual in the email, and that's the deepening part. So, there's a problem that occurs in the email, and that problem is solved in that email. They go to the video, they watch these, before and after things, and they buy. But there's also like a secondary sort of a situation, a secondary sort of problem that always comes back in the next email that doesn't get solved until the end of the series. So there's always like a primary problem, and I classify this as you do email marketing, you sell autoresponder series. So there's a reason why somebody would want an autoresponder series. Okay, that is the primary sort of problem resolution.
Yep.
And then there's a secondary problem that doesn't get solved until the end, or it's always recurring sort of thing. And that is, why does somebody need John McIntyre to write an email autoresponder series? What is your unique selling proposition? Yeah. So there's a problem of, I need more sales. I need follow-up. I keep forgetting to follow up. I need a way to solve that problem. And this is how I solved it with these machines that automatically follow up. But I could never write them in such a way that resulted in sales when people landed on the page. So, I needed to get John McIntyre because, he had the secret sauce of how to not only follow up, but, get action when people followed up, that sort of things. So there's the primary problem resolution in every single email, and then there's this recurring sort of secondary problem that is the unique selling proposition of your particular weight loss program or insurance strategy or autoresponder follow-up, whatever. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It's always the same sort of principle.
Cool. Well, thank you. Before we wrap this up, though, I mean, we talked about this. Well, obviously, you've got a product called Email Alchemy, but as far as I know, it's closed right now. So tell the listener where, if they want to learn more about you or about the program, where they can go. And then I know you mentioned that you're going to open it up, or you're doing a sort of special promotion, special offer in probably a month, which will be, this podcast will go live, and I think it's about 4 or 5 weeks right now. So it might time up pretty well.
Yeah, so what you want to do now, if you're intrigued by any of this, you need to go to my website, www.daniellevis.com, DANIELLEVIS.com, and there should be a pop-up that'll come over the site, and it'll offer you a free report. I think it's called 9 Forbidden Secrets of Info Marketing or something like that. So go ahead and get that, and you'll be on our list. And then next month, when we introduce Email Alchemy, we've got 3 different tracks for you, depending on who you are. And we're going to be having special offers on all 3 tracks. The first track is very reasonably priced, and it is for the do-it-yourselfer, for people who want to write their own emails to sell their own products or services, in much the sort of vein that we've been talking about here today. And we're also introducing 10 royalty-free templates. So you'll be able to take this subject line, opening, deepening, pitch, call to action structure, which is Email Alchemy, and you'll be able to basically fill out a questionnaire with details about your business, and then you take the answers and you just kind of paint by numbers, and you'll have emails that are really compelling, interesting, proven to work and to close for your business very, very quickly and very easily. And of course, you'll have the whole course that shows you how to write them from scratch. And if you're a copywriter or a marketing consultant, you're going to be eating that up. You're going to be learning a ton, and it's going to help you to create these high converting Email Alchemy campaigns. You're not allowed to resell those templates. They're only for the promotion of your own services, regardless of what those services are. And then we have a second track, and this track is specifically for copywriters, marketing consultants. And the second track kind of walks you through the process of getting clients as an email alchemist for hire, selling these types of gigs, these engagements, and getting paid a lot of money to do it, and being able to go to a client with a very seductive proposition that allows you to get paid, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $60,000, even $100,000 for one gig, writing Email Alchemy series for them. And I'll show you exactly how to do that. And then, and by the way, that track also gives you all the marketing that you'll need. You get, lumpy mail campaigns that you can send out in the post to generate leads. You'll get special reports, case studies proving that Email Alchemy works. You'll get email alchemy campaigns for following up on those prospects and getting them to inquire and how to close them and get paid this money for writing email alchemy. And then the third track, which is brand new, never been sold before, I'm going to give you everything you need. I'm going to give you all of the training, all of the marketing, all done for you to go out and get email alchemy clients as an email alchemist for hire, going and showing clients the found money in their list that they didn't know was there, and that they will pay you, gladly pay you $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 per assignment in writing emails. And I'm going to actually write the emails for you, almost. I'm going to give you royalty-free templates that you can go out and you can resell. So not only the marketing and the training to find the client, but I'm actually going to write the emails for you, almost. So you're going to go. I'm going to show you how to adapt an email alchemy campaign to a specific client need, so that you don't have to be a copywriter, you don't have to be a marketing wizard. All you have to do is almost like a McDonald's franchise. All you have to do is pay me some money. I'll give you everything you need. You can go out and be in business virtually overnight with everything done for you. You just put the key in the ignition and you go out and you apply email alchemy to the marketplace and make $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 per engagement. So that's really exciting for anybody who is, spinning their wheels out there online, don't know what to do, or having a great deal of difficulty trying to create a product, trying to do this, trying to do that. Here is a way for you to make money right out of the gate online, selling email alchemy campaigns. And that's brand new. It's going to be introduced next month.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, by the time this podcast goes live, it'll be in about just over 4 weeks from when we're recording this. So that'll go live. It'll be around that time that you should be live as well. So if people want to go and learn more about this and get this, they can go to daniellevis.com. I'll have the show notes and a link to that at themcmethod.com. Daniel, thanks for coming on the show to talk about this.
Oh, you're quite welcome, John. I enjoyed it.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you want to discover more insider tips, tricks, and secrets about driving sales with email marketing, sign up for daily email tips from the autoresponder guy. Go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Sign up, confirm your email address, and I'll send you daily emails on how to improve your email marketing and make more sales via email. You'll find out why open rates don't matter and the 7-letter word that underlies all effective marketing and much more.